San Luis Obispo Real Estate Podcast with the group, the Hal Sweasey Group. Mr. Sweasey, how are you, sir?
Good.
JT,
We're a group and a team.
JT, how are you?
I'm still laughing, but I'm good.
Bobby, you're here. How are you?
I am. I'm great.
Mr. Kingman, you're here as well. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Guys, pardon my French, but I'm pretty darn excited for this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's good.
I'm pretty darn excited. We got great stuff to talk about. We got guests coming next week in our podcast. We're thriving. We're taking off.
Yeah.
Jeff, how are we doing with this podcast right now? Do you know?
We're doing great.
Well, that's good.
Good answer. It's my busy season, so I really haven't stopped down and look at any analytics.
We're just going to say we're doing excellent.
I'm going to rely on you on that one.
Hey,
I think you have more answers than I do.
We're doing great. Yeah, our website is showing thousands and thousands of visitors. So everybody that listens to us, thank you so much.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that at the beginning of the podcast, thank you so much to everybody that listens to us. I get a lot of good feedback. So
Awesome.
that's great.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just got something.
And we got Bobby with us today.
Yes.
We do.
We're excited.
We have the leader, the team leader, the grand
CEO.
poobah of KW Central Coast. And she demanded to be in the middle in front of everybody too. Hal, how's that make you feel?
I feel safer on the wing.
She should be in the middle.
What is the role of the team leader for what you could do? I've worked with you guys for years, and I don't understand exactly what it is that you do.
So the team leader's basically responsible for growing the company and managing the company, and like business coaching with the top 20% of the agents there, foreseeing what's coming down the line and kind of getting a strategy for what we're doing, which kind of we're touching on some of that today, some of the things we need to strategize for.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm glad he asked her that question and not me.
CEO.
So your job is to look ahead and focus
to
on,
look
on
ahead
the
and to know who I'm in business with and who we're in business with and help them, have the best businesses that they can and attract more people that are like-hearted, that want the same things and live in our culture.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I know.
So your job is to
pretty fun.
look down the street, but not only just down the street, but down the street and around the corner to see what's coming next. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I get to be part of a lot of fun conversations.
To help business owners like Hal make strategic decisions about how they move forward.
Yeah.
Right?
I really like Bobby's leadership style too. Very, very good at just making sure we have the tools we need to do what we need to do and succeed. So
Thank you
thanks.
for that. You're referring to the tequila I brought you.
Well,
yeah.
That
the
helps.
next day, it didn't help the next day, but yeah.
No, you guys are fun. I love working with all of you.
You do a great
thanks for
job.
being here. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, well, we got two great topics, very timely topics today. We're going to talk a little bit about the interest rate environment, and then we'll finish up with what we've talked about a few times in the past, and that's the NAR ruling.
Right.
So let's jump into interest rates. So the Fed, what's his name? Powell?
Jerome Powell.
Jerome Powell. He announced just in the last few days that inflation numbers are looking a little bit better than they had been. Mm-hmm. The other numbers they look at suggest that an interest rate drop. Oh, good, I'm crossing my fingers. An interest rate drops in the near future, like September maybe.
Possibility. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what impact have the higher interest rates had on our marketplace? Been going up for 3 years, right?
Yeah. Well, I know a few for sure. One, it's limited inventory on the owner's side, right? Because you've got a great rate, you don't want to give it up.
Right.
Yeah, I got 3.
Yeah.
But to move and say to downsize and move to my next house, or I got to go from 3 to 7.
Yeah. If you keep a
Not
mortgage.
willing to do that.
Yeah. So it's restricted the supply of homes for sale, right? Which has supported prices in some way. So if you're a buyer, if you're a seller, you're happy. I would say it's also restricted supply because as those rates go up, it's harder to build something, right? So, we're a small town and a lot of folks, we don't like to have 1 million houses come in, but if we don't have more housing, more people are coming,
Right.
And the demand is from people. And whether it's a place to rent or to purchase, it's just hard and expensive to put something new together that makes any sense for somebody who's going to take the risk and put the energy in to build a house. So house building's down.
Do we have many new builds in the inventory right now?
No, I mean the big, the
few?
Avila Ranch, the San Luis Ranch, these larger projects that have come through, they've been in the works for years.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not aware of a whole lot in the pike, and those were during better times. So I think, and when I say better, more amenable to building. But if you look at building costs, costs of labor, costs of borrowing, all those things are going to make any new housing expensive.
Yeah.
So those two have helped, and then it's suppressed some, obviously, to buyer demand, which we'll let everybody else talk about. But yeah.
Well, I will tell you that I looked this morning, and our inventory is at the highest point since, we were in the middle of COVID.
Right.
I've used these numbers for the last couple of years now. The last I remember, I looked at the metric that I watch, and we were at 880 in May of 2020, I believe. That was our total number of houses for sale. I look at houses, townhouses, and condos. And at the bottom, it was 220. And now we're back to 550.
Yes. And so, like, if you look at April 2020, we have our little market stats. I'll kind of show those. We used them here at the office. But even in April of 2020, our inventory was down from 2019, right? So, which meant it was higher. So we still are at a low level, even though nationwide I keep hearing like 35%. And all the agents I know all over the country are saying, yeah, there's definitely more homes for sale, which I think is healthy, right?
There are more homes for sale. The market's a little bit healthier, and inventory is still very, very low compared to history, right?
What we're used to. Yep.
Yeah. And 3% interest rates. Do you think we'll ever see those again?
It doesn't sound like.
I'm just waiting for them to change mine to 5, even though it's fixed at 3. So I wouldn't count. I wouldn't put money on that. No way.
Yeah. So something I read said if Chairman Powell and his team decide they're going to lower interest rates, when they raised them, they just raised them multiple times. But when they raised them, that was usually 25 basis points.
Right.
So if we see a decrease in September, the prognosticator that I was watching on YouTube suggested 25 basis points.
Sure.
And so if we have multiple reductions between now and the end of next year, that they're forecasting the sweet spot for interest rates going forward is 4 to 6. Does that resonate with you guys? Does that sound about where you
like it's possible thinking? Or
yeah, like it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, containing inflation was a big challenge, and how much is it contained? They're going to decide that, right? And do they slow things down enough where it's like they need to rejuice things a little bit? So, boy, if it were 5%, I think after having 7,
we would all feel it.
That would be amazing.
But I think that's a good conversation to have realistically, because a lot of us, we get attached to the sound of interest rates coming down.
Oh, we want 3 again.
Yeah, I think that's what we're thinking in our heads. Maybe if we don't realize it.
I'm going to wait till they're 3 to buy.
Well, good luck, sir. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're even down now. I mean, I think you quoted some, certain sites that you can get in the lower 6s, which is, we haven't seen that for a while.
Higher
maybe.
6s.
Higher 6s.
Higher
I misheard
6s.
you. Okay, because that didn't seem what I...
Yeah.
Because they're so volatile.
Yeah, I know somebody who closed last week at $699.
Right.
And then I looked at another website yesterday. It was $682.
Oh, okay.
And then up today to $685. So it fluctuates every day, as we all know. But if we got a 1/4 of a point reduction in the federal rate, we know it's not exactly connected, but we would anticipate mortgage rates starting to go the right way, the way we want them to go, right?
Yep.
So at 4 to 6, you believe our transactions would normalize a little bit. Is that right? Because their transactions last 2 years at all-time low, right?
Right. Well, and then there's like the demographic thing. So, I'm 62 or whatever, and are going to be, hopefully. And, you got people that I'm at the end of the baby boom, so late 60s, 70s, and they're scaling down. So those houses they might let go of at a lower rate or pay them off or go somewhere else. So that shift may help more bigger homes, but a lot of people, when they scale down, go to a smaller house. So there'll be demand for smaller housing, but builders don't want to build small houses because it takes so much energy just to build one. You want to get it as big as you can, hopefully, right? So it's going to be interesting what happens, but it will certainly help in terms of number of places for sale if we get that drop. Anywhere in the 5s, I think we'll see a huge increase in demand, and hopefully more homes will come up on the market.
Yeah.
I think many people that tune into our podcast that don't work in the real estate industry every day may not see some things that we see, and that's the impact of the national and local economy with a dramatic shift in transactions to the low point where we are today.
Yeah.
I mean, are lower transactions good for brokers?
No.
No.
It's painful.
Yeah.
It is painful. And are we seeing shifts in brokerages right now? I mean, we talked a little bit about that while you were gone, Bobby, but we were hoping you were going to be here for that one. But
How dare you have that conversation
I know,
without me? Darn
I
it.
know, but I think what we're seeing is brokerages consolidating,
Absolutely.
less storefronts, right?
Yeah.
More people working out of their house and having their brokerages kind of on the web rather than having a storefront like we have here.
Do you see that as much locally? I don't track that as much as maybe you do.
I'm in a lot of conversations, so maybe those things haven't played out fully, but especially with the changes to NAR that we're going to discuss later, that the conversations are happening where people are going, what it took to be in business 10 years ago, it's completely different now. Our margins are shrinking. Just the time and energy that it takes to stay ahead right now in this industry is, it is, if you don't love it,
the model has
you're
changed.
out. The model has changed drastically, and it just doesn't make as much sense as it used to for those smaller productions. So they're joining with, larger names, and a lot of people are actually just leaving the business.
So we're seeing a shrinkage in real estate agent count.
We've seen the beginning of a shrinkage.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this is just the beginning.
And the work from home is way bigger, right?
Yeah.
I think it's in all offices.
And that's such a disservice. If I think of how much you learn coming in and how much interaction, it's such a, it's unfortunate.
We're so fortunate in that our agents that we work with daily see the value of the collaboration and the camaraderie that comes with, learning. We learn about the business every day because we're together every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the impact so there's definite impact on brokers, right?
Yes.
But I wonder if the public thinks about the impact on lenders. Are we seeing a substantial impact on our lender friends?
More than real estate sales. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because no refinancing business to speak of.
Yeah. So not only are transactions down, you're not refinancing from 3 to 7.
Right.
Yeah.
And and then you've got the number of buyers that are paying cash is higher than ever. So boy, the lending industry they've seen the biggest shrinkage, I would think, of anybody.
So both the brokers and the lenders, it's really important that you enhance your skill set to stay competitive in a shrinking market, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what about title and escrow companies? We know that there's been shrinkage there, right?
Yeah,
We're
sure.
talking to some friends. I think in the next week or two we're going to have on one of your favorite inspectors, and so it impacts the inspection industry,
Sure.
right? I just made a list of all the people that it impacts. You want to hear my list?
Oh yeah, let's hear it all.
Yeah. Okay, so brokers, lenders, title, escrow, inspections, appraisers.
Yep.
Right? How about this? Plumbers.
Sure.
You're doing an inspection, there's a plumbing issue, we need to call a plumber.
Yep.
We're not selling as many houses, we're not doing as many inspections, we're not calling as many plumbers.
Right.
Same has to do with electricians and contractors. Here's one that I heard that I wouldn't have thought about on my own, and that's people who own a furniture store.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appliances, Home Depot, Miners Ace Hardware, all the impact that this industry has on our entire economy and so many small businesses in our communities, right?
Yeah, and all those people are tied to families and, then their extended families. We talk about this all the time. This is our community, so you get to know these people deeply, and it's been really hard.
They're the ones who support our arts and fine arts community. They're the one who supports Little League, and so this is a huge deal. So I'm really rooting for the prognosticators to be correct that interest rates are coming down. I was rooting for them last year when we thought the same thing, and it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
But so, any other thoughts about interest rates? We know that when affordability improves, transactions are going to improve, right?
Of course.
So we all have optimism about that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the supply is heading in the right direction to help us out.
Okay.
So-
So we're feeling better about tomorrow than we actually feel about today, it sounds like.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, there you
there
go.
it is.
Okay, let's
Leadership.
let's jump on to our second topic, and that's the NAR
Right.
ruling. So there's two parts of that. Who wants to explain the
I like towels.
the first part, which involves transparency of commissions on the MLS? And all
Oh,
that?
okay.
Who wants
yeah,
to explain that?
Based on the ruling.
Based on the ruling.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So which part do you want me to take?
Yeah,
Yeah, because we're sorting this out.
Let's sort it out together.
So I would say well, there's two things. So the biggest change and the biggest thing that's going to probably add complexity for a buyer is rather than just showing up and saying to an agent, "Can I go look at this house?" There's a form you need to sign.
Okay, that's item number 2. We're going 2, and then we'll
okay.
come back to
Oh,
one.
that's
Keep-
two.
keep us
Okay.
on track.
That's
Keep
number
us on
2.
track.
Okay.
Okay.
You
Follow
want me to do
directions, will you?
Okay.
No, take number 2.
Well,
You're
I-
off to a good start.
Well, it's only two.
Yeah, there's only 2.
Well, I had a 25% chance of getting that right. So
I think you had a 50%.
well, maybe in my case, 25%.
So you're great at real estate, Al.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
you're
numbers,
talking
not
about the
math.
commissions offered,
Yeah.
no
Murphy
longer
owns a
being.
screwdriver.
I do. I've got a flat one and the other one.
And then the other one. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So
To see a house.
yeah, that's number 2.
Are we starting with number 2 or number 1?
Is number 1 just the commissions? That
So number 1 is the
this-
MLS transparency
Yes.
and the commission.
Right, which is silly, I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but number 2 can be somewhat significant, and that is the fact that yes, you will call a broker and say, "Hey, I want to see the house on Banana Street," and you go, "Great, come on in. There's a form you need to sign before you go look at the house," and it spells out the duties of each side of the transaction, the agent and the buyer, potential commissions that get paid. How long is the relationship, and is it for a number of homes or is it for amount of time?
Right.
So that will make it interesting because there's a lot of forms in real estate, and how do I put this gently? Our listing agreements, many pages now, but most people just care about what's the price I'm going to get and how much do I have to pay the commission to the real estate agent. And in offers, there's 16 pages plus addendums.
Yeah.
And most people want to know how much am I going to get and when do I get it and when are the contingencies, right? And who's paying for what. So, and that could be on one page. So there's a lot of detail in these forms. So this last one is going to determine, you have to sign something like that. And it sounds like, and the forms keep changing and the dates move around, but it sounds like by the middle of August, you call a real estate agent, and some areas are already starting it and some aren't going to start at all. We'll talk about that in a minute. We've never met. If you're going to show me the house, okay, I'll sign this thing that says I'm going to work with you if I buy it, and there's a certain amount of commission I could be responsible for as a buyer. Okay, versus having the seller pay for it, which has been customary for years.
Right.
Okay. Now let's make John make the argument: who has currently paid the commission, the seller or the buyer?
Well,
I know what John's going to say.
hey, I would make the argument that in the history of the world, there's never been a seller who's paid a commission. Now, if you look at the statements at the end of the deal, the seller's statement shows the commission. And so most people would say, John, you're full of baloney. The sellers have always paid the commission. But my argument is, from where did the money come?
Yeah.
And the money came from the buyer. And so the buyer has always paid the commission. It shows up on the seller's statement merely for accounting purposes so that the buyers can qualify for their loans.
Right.
They don't have to come up with that additional amount. And so
It's like the pool of money. You're selling your house, Bobby, for $1 million. Buyer brings $1 million to the escrow account.
Right.
From that, okay, agent gets paid, title company gets paid, lending points, all comes out. Buyer supplied it, but where those funds are dispersed and who's responsible for them, it gets credit or debit, that's a closing statement. So I agree 100% with you, John. I mean, It is always that resource, that money doesn't happen unless a buyer brings money to escrow.
So the main purpose of this, though, is just transparency. It's the buyer understanding what they could be on the hook for and what they could be paying. If the seller ends up offering it, great. But up front now we're seeing, and you can be ready for that. When you go to sell your house, you sit down, you have a listing agreement, you know exactly what it's going to cost, well, ish, depending on what you get for the house. And now we're doing the same thing. It's a buyer agreement, which is very comparable to a listing agreement
Right.
as far as what you are going to owe. However that shakes out, that's going to be the fun part. But
I would say that, like most of a real estate transaction, there are complexities, and that's why, if you have questions, you need to call Hal or one of the buyer's agents on his team, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there could be a case where if you're shopping around, you haven't found a realtor, you could potentially want to see 3 different houses, call 3 different offices, and sign some forms. And unbeknownst to you, you might have some obligations when you find the right person. So if you're even thinking about it, you should reach out to a realtor and just that's been around and just go, okay, what can I expect? So certainly call us. We're here to answer those questions. The details are yet to be worked out, but the concept seems likely that could be a challenge with this new system.
yeah,
Right.
if the whole idea though is built to protect the consumer, you really, as a consumer, and I feel so strongly about this, you need to work with somebody that you do trust, and you need to know what you're signing. 'Cause
Absolutely.
if you just want to get into a house and that agent isn't looking out for your best interest and they're just trying to get you on the hook for paying a commission, you could obligate yourself to a lot of money if you don't understand what you're, committing yourself to. So ask questions.
There's going to be a more formal discussion because you don't want to have misunderstandings.
Right.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it puts pressure on agents to show their value and to be skillful and competent in what they do.
Right.
And I think, again, this is complex. It could be a little bit scary if you didn't have somebody that has a lot of experience, knows what they're doing, and you trust them to guide you through this complex system.
Yeah.
The good news is it adds transparency. The bad news is it creates more complexity
For the buyer.
for the buyer.
For the
Yeah.
buyer,
At the end of the day, if you're working with a competent, experienced buyer's agent who does multiple transactions per year, not 1 or 2, I'm talking multiple, I think this will be not a big issue. The second part of this NAR thing is the whole multiple listing service issue and being able to publicize commissions.
Yeah.
And I hear there's some pushback on some of that
Yeah.
across the country. Do you hear the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby?
I know. I want to be careful. Yes, I do. And I think that it's a reasonable reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what they're proposing and we're likely to see is, used to, and it's been transparent here for a while now, and it's been, it's occurred in the past for sure, but you cannot advertise what you're willing to offer someone in terms of a commission for a buyer's agent.
Right.
You can advertise that, hey, I'm going to sell my house. I don't want to put carpet in, so I'll give someone a $5,000 carpet allowance. That makes it more attractive for a buyer. You can advertise that you put solar on your house. You can invest money in staging a house, getting it professionally cleaned, painted. All those are investments to try to add value for the buyer, to entice a buyer to come in. Many buyers don't want to look on their own. They want an agent. So if you're not going to compensate the agent, or if that's an unknown, and I think it'll easily be known, but to start, it'll be unknown. A buyer could go, well, I don't want to pay that $1 million house. I don't want to write a check for an extra $25,000. That's why it's always been on the seller's statement, right? Even though it comes in. So I think it's going to be important for people to know that it's going to be more on a market-driven basis. But if you're a home seller, you probably want to put your house, if you can, in the best condition. You probably want to offer out a commission to the agents because you never know who's going to bring the highest price offer in. So you want to incent them in a way that's, of course, negotiable as always. So those things all go into it. Otherwise, you don't put money into the condition of the house. You don't put money in the condition of the property. You don't put money into commissions, and then you just sell it for a lot less, which is always an option.
Right.
That's why you would sell it for sale by owner. You forego all those possibilities, probably some legal protection. And you say, I'm willing to take, $100,000 less and just do it that way.
Yeah.
So it's always been an option, but it's going to just change the structure a little bit.
Yeah, I think we've said this about this ruling since we first heard about it, that every time we talk about it, we have more questions than answers.
Sure.
Right? And that hasn't stopped. In fact, we have more questions than answers. In fact, I just saw something this morning about some part of the country has said, we don't even think this is legal.
Right.
To hide the information because of First Amendment rights.
Yeah, you should have the right, what they're saying, and many states have adopted it. And what happens from here, nobody knows. But hey, I should be able to, as a homeowner, not as a real estate agent, advertise that I have new windows and I'm offering a fee or a concession to go to a buyer's agent. All these things. That's what's described. It's like trying to describe your property, but you can't say some of the stuff about it, right? Yeah. So, I get the transparency around commissions. I think it's important. There's a lot on the line when it comes to that and what people are going to get for their money, right? That's why the disclosures are so important. That's why you put everything out in writing. Right. So this one we're working our way around. I think it won't change things too much, but for a while it's going to be a different situation than we've seen, but we've seen other situations that are different.
Like you, Bobby, I'm for consumers being protected. What I worry about are lawyers drafting consumer protection that doesn't protect anybody, in fact, hurts us. Right. And I believe that I should be able to, as a homeowner, have someone come on my property anytime I want. They don't have to sign a government document to look at my house.
Right.
Yeah. I don't believe that I should not be able to advertise that I'm willing to pay a commission to get a buyer to come buy my house.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have some problems with this stuff, and I hope the questions that we have get answered so that they don't cause more complexity and heartburn for buyers, sellers, and brokers.
Yeah. It's complex enough already.
Yeah, it very much is.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
So you're going to go to the Supreme Court and talk about
I'm going to go argue.
Okay, good.
The Supreme Court.
All right, guys. Well, that's awesome. Thank you. A lot of good information. Any have final thoughts? Anybody has any final thoughts? Go once, going twice.
I want more answers.
More answers.
Yeah.
Well, those
they change every day. So
we'll
call,
keep you updated.
Just give us a
next
call.
Next month, another update.
Another
on
update.
the NAR.
We're going to be
But
talking
seriously,
about it for a while.
seriously, if you are concerned about this issue at all, call Hal's office. They can help you through this thing. For us, I've called it a nothing burger because with great professionals to help you, it shouldn't be an issue.
That's a great resource too, because it could take you by surprise. A lot of people might not even be paying attention to it, and if you know somebody who gets caught by surprise, give Hal a call.
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you very much. And Bobby, if you have anybody that needs to buy a house, you can send them Hal's way as well. So appreciate that. I'm totally joking.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
we'll talk to you later.
All right.